Hello, Scorpio. Welcome to Dove and Serpent Tarot. My name is Paul. Thank you so much for letting me read for you. If Scorpio is your sun, moon, or rising sign, this is your tarot card reading. Remember to hit the like button, leave a comment, consider subscribing to the channel, especially if this reading resonates with you. If there is anything you would like me to pray over or meditate upon or send positive energy toward, please let me know. Now, this is going to be a general reading, so try to be open and receptive to whatever may come through during our time together. I am merely the messenger, and I ask you to connect directly with each of these cards and use your own intuition to take you beyond the details that I might provide. And remember, Scorpio, that the most important part of any tarot reading is you. All right, Three of Cups, beautiful energy. This is a celebration. This is someone, I think, who is sort of in their zone, you know. I feel like the creative energy is just pouring forth from you. Now, maybe it's just sort of lately that you've been feeling that you're sort of in this flow, that maybe like the ideas just keep coming to you, or that the things that you're involved with sort of feel like they're just happening more effortlessly, right? This is the card of appreciation and recognition as well, okay? I think that you are focused on gratitude, you're focused on giving, you're focused on expressing yourself, expressing your gift, you know. You have a really big heart, and I feel that you care a lot about everybody, and sometimes this might even... it sometimes might be too much, okay? Because people don't always live up to your expectations, okay? You've got standards, and you've got high standards, and that's good, right? That you want the very, very best. You expect the very, very best from yourself and from others around you, but sometimes the expectation is where we get into trouble, because we have high standards and we expect others to meet those standards, but they don't always. Okay? So standards and expectations are different things, you know. We've got to put this card into some context. Let's see what it is that you're sort of working toward. What is the life that you're trying to build? This is the card of understanding, right? Understanding your own emotions. I think understanding what you want, what is going to make you happy in life, and how are you kind of like willing to compromise on things, you know? That you have this vision of your life, this ideal happiness, this 10 of Cups kind of thing. But the expectation that everything you encounter is going to live up to that very high standard, right? That's something that I think we maybe have a little bit of wiggle room in. Let's see what we have. Let's see what our other cards are today, all right? Well, I was expecting the 10 of Cups. We've got a Prince of Wands, a 5 of Swords. We got the Fool. We've got, oh, okay, we've got one of your superpower cards. That's the Prince of Cups. It is a fixed water energy. I feel like what we have here between the fire and the water, we have that very idea of you holding yourself to these very high standards and holding others to these very high standards too. But see, there's that 5 of Swords, which kind of says like people aren't always going to live up to those high standards. Are we sort of, you know, are we alienating ourselves? Are we limiting our experience of joy and pleasure because we're maybe unwilling to compromise or to accept anything that's not absolutely perfect, you know? Let's keep going. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got the Fool and the Magician. See, I think this is why you've got such high standards. Okay? And you hold yourself to these very high standards, and you're emerging as the Fool, which is raw talent, and the Magician, which is the skill to go with it, right? So it's kind of like you have high standards, and for a very good reason. All right, let's keep going. Let's put the rest of our cards out before we get too far into this. We have another 5. Okay, 5 of Wands. We've got the Hierophant in the environment. And we've got, now the Hierophant in the environment, of course, is the standard. This is kind of what we are striving for. This is the standard to which we hold ourselves. This is the standard to which we hold others. Okay, and depending on where we draw the line in terms of our expectations of others, is going to determine sort of what kind of outcome, what kind of life we have. Okay, and we'll explain more about that, but our final card there is going to be that Hermit card. Okay, and the Hermit card is kind of the, it's kind of saying, well, I'm taking my ball, I'm going home. All right. And so I feel that there is, there's a delicate balance here. There's a line that we all have to draw in terms of our relationships with other people and the expectations that we have on other people. Now, expectations and standards are different. You have these very high standards that you're trying to strive for them. You're trying to reach for yourself. You're trying to achieve these very high standards of quality, of attitude, of performance, of whatever it is, right? Behavior. And we sort of want the same for other people in our lives. We want everybody to achieve a certain standard of health and happiness and effort and motivation and attention and application and hard work, We have all these kinds of standards. But the expectation that we put on other people is kind of, there has to be a space between the two. If our standards are up here and our expectations are up here, well, nobody is coming into the situation already meeting those high standards. Okay? So it's kind of like we need to have some room for growth here. So our standards can be up here, our expectations are right here. And then, of course, we are, the lower our standards go, the less we are disappointed. Okay? But then it sort of brings the average quality down. The higher our expectations, the more we're disappointed, but those things that we do have are of a much higher quality, right? And we might be talking about friendships, romantic partners. We might be talking about the quality of the products, and maybe maybe you're in manufacturing. Right. I did plastics manufacturing for about a year when I was, I guess I was 18 at the time. So a long time ago. And it really was this idea of, do we want the right balance between quality and quantity. If we're going for absolute perfect quality, we're only going to make like 1 or 2 parts a day. That's not enough. Customer's going to get mad. So if we lower our expectations, we still have these very high standards of quality, right? But we lower the expectation that says, okay, I can reasonably get pretty close to perfect, but not all the way there, but I'm going to be able to produce a lot more, Whereas if I hold myself to those very high standards and I expect nothing but the absolute very best all the time, it may take me a lot longer to get that one perfect piece. Okay, so, and it's really up to us in our own kind of personal lives. And maybe you work for a manufacturing company. It's not up to you. It's going to be up to, somebody else. Or maybe you're in that kind of quality control in the company that you work for. And that is your job, right? Could very well be. But for all of us in our personal lives, we have to understand that's not always a fixed sort of goalpost. That it has to be adjustable. It has to be flexible. Maybe when we're thinking of, a life partner, maybe we don't want there to be a huge gap. We say, you better be close to my standard, as close as you can be if we're going to make this thing work. So when we're choosing a partner, maybe we want very high expectations, But when we're sort of, making other choices, maybe the the expectation can be lower. I still want the very best. I still have a very high standard, but I'm not expecting my options right now to get very close to that. I mean, I'm still trying to do the very best, but we've got to understand where those standards and expectations need to be more flexible or more fluid, right? Let's select our mystery card, bonus card, confirmation card. This is a random card from the Smith-Waite Tarot. This is the factor infinite and unknown. And we're going to set it down right over here. We're going to put Tiny Bob Ross right on top. We're not going to look at that card until the very end. But it will tie everything together. It will give us the confirmation that we need at the end of the reading. If you have a prediction for that card, put it in the comments down below. All right, let's do it together. Let's exercise our intuition. Let's take a look around the room here. We've got quite a lot of major arcana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And your talent and your skill and your driving force and your standards are determining sort of how many connections you make, right? We've got that hermit card at the end. All of these things are sort of, are leading us to that hermit energy, which is, are we saying no to certain things because they don't meet our expectations or live up to our standards? And if we do that too much, we're isolating ourselves. We're saying these people are not perfect. They don't meet my standards. I don't want anything to do with them. Okay? And that's our choice, right? You'd rather have a couple of very, very wonderful people in your life than a whole group of, not so nice people around you, right? Quality over quantity. But how far over, right? Where is that line? That I feel like is what we're talking about. But we've got the major arcana energy here, and I really do think that it says a lot of good things about you. Okay? It says that you have a tremendous amount of talent. You have a tremendous amount of skill, which is the refinement of the talent. If we've got the Fool there as the uncarved block of wood, then the Magician is us trying to refine that talent into the masterpiece. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like somebody that's naturally good at music and stuff, but you gotta take the piano lessons. You gotta practice. You gotta refine your skill. Raw talent alone is not enough, right? The raw talent is like you have a block of wood, and then the sculptor comes in and is able to sort of pull the image out of that block of wood. And that's kind of what we are, that our being, our soul, our energy is sort of that uncarved block of wood. It's up to our choices, our ability to be the magician, right? It's upon us in working in tandem with Spirit to sort of chisel away at what we are and who we are, our raw material, so that our very best self can emerge. And so you have these really high standards for yourself, and you take your work seriously. You take your inner spiritual work very seriously, right? And whether we're talking here about a career or a job situation or your art or your spiritual work, your self-work, your inner development, you take it very seriously. You are holding yourself to that very high standard, and I think that you're working very hard to achieve that high standard, and you certainly have the driving force of this Devil card, right, to do it. But these two, the Devil and the Hermit, are kind of lonely cards. Okay. The Hierophant in the environment is sort of it's that movable goalpost. It's that movable expectation that we have of other people, because sometimes we want to let just more people in, that we want to make connections. I want to make friends. I want to have acquaintances, and I want to have just sort of casual relationships with coworkers or friends or just people out in the world, that it's not so important that they live up to these very high expectations. It's like they're not going to be running the business, and they're not going to be watching my kids, But then those people that are running your business or watching your kids, those maybe we have to have a really high expectation of the quality, So anyway, a lot of major arcana. We have fire, water, and we've got some air. Okay, and the fives here are really the struggle that we have in this entire process, because really ultimately it's about your happiness, it's about your satisfaction, your well-being, it's about your becoming the very best version of yourself, right? And for your life itself to live up to your expectations and your standards, right? That you have this standard of happiness, you have this expectation or this goal that you're trying to reach of like the kind of life that you want and how happy you are and how satisfied you are and the things that you want to accomplish, your goals and all this stuff. Like you got plans, you got aspirations. And I think that you're taking yourself very seriously and you're being actually quite hard on yourself about sort of reaching these goals and making these accomplishments and, refining your raw talent into that masterful, virtuoso kind of skill of the magician. And I think we need to evaluate that a little bit so that you can enjoy your life, because it does feel like you're being very hard on yourself right now. Yeah. I also am getting this strange feeling there's something going on with a neighbor or something, right? Or someone that lives near you. I feel like there's some sort of drama going on there. Yeah. I feel like you used to be cool, but now I don't know what happened. But there's some sort of drama going on with somebody. I'm feeling somebody that lives near you. Maybe it's an office thing and they have an office near you, but it's like a neighbor kind of energy. Yeah. Anyway, the Prince of Wands here is a very consistent energy. It is an energy that is sort of always on, It's always striving. It's always working towards something. And it's sort of in contrast with our Prince of Cups. We got this fire and this water sort of duality. And it kind of feels with the wands here, the fire prince, that that everything is a push, that everything is an effort, everything is very purposeful and very intentional, whereas with the water prince, it's a little bit more kind of relaxed, In other words, this is someone that takes themselves so seriously that every waking moment is spent in a very sort of strict and disciplined and economical and very orderly, organized, intentional sort of, actions, choices, behaviors, right? Whereas the converse of that with the Prince of Cups is just like, I'm just going to do what feels good, a little more free, a little more relaxed, a little more go with the flow, right? And so I feel like you have this intensity about you right now that might be isolating you from the effects of what you're doing, right? You have all this seriousness to you, but are you enjoying what all of that discipline and focus is supposed to be creating? Yeah. Because see, we have the Three of Cups here, but it's a potential for a lot of satisfaction, a lot of connections, right? And we sort of would expect another Three of Cups, a Six of Cups, right, to be produced. That all of this potential in you, this standard of quality, we're sort of looking to connect with others and, find that sense of community and the connection and the togetherness. And but what we're running into instead are the fives. So it's like the water energy, that sort of, that happiness, that love, that satisfaction, the pleasure, right, is being blocked. And so I kind of feel that the Prince of Cups here is sort of the recognition the reflection maybe that we need. That we're striving to produce this, we're striving with all of this effort and all of this intensity to create this life that we want, but it's through that very intensity that we're sort of blocking ourselves from getting that life we want. It's almost a self-sabotage here. It's almost that it's through the efforts that are meant to produce the good thing that we're being blocked from getting the good thing. Okay, so it's kind of weirdly paradoxical. And the Five of Swords down beneath the surface, I wonder if this is kind of talking about the drama. Again, I feel that there's that drama with that neighbor or something. And I think that it's like this is that underlying reality that we're not really getting along with people at the moment. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just this neighbor or if this is kind of maybe it's supposed to be more metaphorical. That we're not getting. I don't think you're having the kind of relationships that you want right now. Okay. And we need to recognize this if we're going to sort of, if we're going to reap the rewards of all of this discipline and effort and intensity. I think we need to recognize that, we might be, maybe you're just sort of going a little too hard with it all, The Fool in the background, I think, is a good reminder of the reasons why this has all sort of come about for you. I think that the Fool in this background position is you looking for a new relationship, a new way of living your life, a new sort of, a new experience of life. Because the Fool is kind of, it's the beginning of the journey. The Fool is the one that has set out, has heard the call, and has begun the quest, for this better life, or beginning the quest for deeper, more meaningful relationships with people. Beginning the quest for more satisfaction in life, more happiness, right? A more fulfilling, a more rich experience of life. Okay? But then it feels like we're back to that intensity, that kind of, that discipline and that focus that might be preventing us, and that kind of, it's a little bit of irony here, preventing us from having those connections. It's like, in some ways, Scorpio, I feel like we're trying too hard. Yeah. And so the Fool doesn't really try at all. And that's the problem with the Fool. The Fool has that raw talent, but needs a little bit of the focus and the discipline and the practice and all of that to really hone that skill, right? To refine that talent into something masterful. Yeah. And so we do need the raw talent. We do need this sort of, the freedom, the foolishness, the silliness, if you will, of the Fool, right? The kind of easygoing, right? It's big contrast with the Magician here, but I think the idea of these two cards being connected by the Prince of Wands and the Three of Cups is the idea that we sort of need both. We need the skill and the talent. We need to unite these two to become the very best version of ourselves, to really unlock our own true potential. We need both of these. Okay? And I think that the Prince of Wands is going too hard this way, going into that realm of skill and technicality and kind of following the rules and not having the sort of the improvisational, freedom, right? That's what you think of a musician, and this is someone who is absolutely technical. Every note is exactly just perfect, but they've taken all the joy out of music. They're too disciplined. They're too technical. And of course, the fool is someone who's just doesn't know the notes, doesn't know how to play, but is just sort of having fun. It's just free. It's just improvising, and somehow it sounds okay, and it's just sort of it's more enjoyable. These two together create the virtuoso, create the master. Okay. So I don't know exactly what we're talking about here. I don't know if we're talking about your friendships or romantic relationships or just your approach to life generally, right? This is in a way going from ignorance to complete wisdom, right? That we're trying to learn all these things, but in that process, we're sort of forgetting our playful innocence back here. Yeah, and then we wonder why we don't really like anybody. We're not getting along with people. And we're going to go over to the path of the serpent now. As we do this, I would like to ask for your subscription. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Totally free. Doesn't cost anything. It supports the channel, and I appreciate that. I have another channel, Dove and Serpent Bedtime Stories, where I read, yes, bedtime stories. If you're interested, go subscribe over at that channel. Your general energy is the 5 of Wands. Again, with this sort of pushing forward energy, thinking the more hours I spend, the more I sort of learn the rules, the more I can become technically proficient, the more I practice and study, the more I can sort of reach those high standards that I have. But we're sort of forgetting that fool energy back there again. We're forgetting that that holding ourselves, or anybody else for that matter, to those very high standards sort of takes away a little bit of the spontaneity, takes a little bit of the novelty, a little bit of the surprise. There's no room for improvisation. It's all just very technical notes. Okay, that's good. It's amazing that you can do that. We need the magic to come back. We need the passion, the spontaneity, the improvisation. Okay, this is a lot of striving. This is a lot of, sort of everything is all of life is a teachable moment, and it gets to be a little too much. It takes away from your ability to enjoy your life, enjoy your day, enjoy your time and your relationships. It's blocking our 3 of Cups from becoming a 6 of Cups, right? We're blocked by the 5s. And of course, we have the Hierophant in the environment, which is, that standard itself. Okay, this is sort of our image. This is our ideal. This is what we are imagining the master to be. But as we know with the Hierophant, that it's all rules, right? The Hierophant too needs a little bit of a fool in there, because otherwise this is just it's kind of very technically proficient. This is somebody that knows everything there is to know about it. But doesn't really have that kind of, it has sort of lost the talent or the creative energy to really utilize it in the right way. It just becomes dogmatic, right? And in that way, if we're so inflexible about the rules, then no one's going to want to play the game with us, I play games with my daughter, my wife and I, Ula. She does her tea leaf readings on her channel, Ula Tea Leaf Readings. My wife, Lenore. We have a 4-year-old daughter, and we play games with her, right? And, sometimes they're like, well, we got to follow the rules. These are the rules of the game. No, it's not your turn. And, it's very, very strict, very disciplined. You got to follow the rules. Within 5 minutes, she's just like, I hate this. It's not fun, right? And so I realized through this process that, we need we got to be able to break the rules a little bit, that yes, I want to teach her how to follow the rules and play the game the way it's sort of meant to be played, and to understand what it means to wait your turn and to share and to be patient and to deal with losing and winning, these kinds of board games and stuff. But I want her to have fun too, I want her to enjoy those moments. This isn't me, she's not in school, this isn't me trying to just teach her a lesson about whatever. We're just trying to have fun time playing a game, So if I'm just a really hardcore stickler for those rules, it's going to suck all the joy out of that situation, that moment. That quality time that we're supposed to be spending together. So I try as much as I can to keep us within the boundaries of the rules, but we realize it's sort of flexible. And my expectations shouldn't be very high that she's going to just sit there and play the game according to the rules until the game is over and everything's fine. So she wants to move her pieces all around the board, and she wants to, add in other characters, or, make up our own rules as we go and that sort of thing, and have more fun doing it. I think that's a very necessary part of the overall experience, you see. And that's, I think, what Spirit's trying to illustrate for us right now. Yeah, especially with that Hierophant. But then we also have this Devil card, which is your ambition, which is your creative drive. It's saying, well, you've got there's a certain level of life that you're trying to reach. And that's very, very good. But we have to understand how, too much of this, all work and no play, right, sort of makes the Hermit a lonely card. Yeah, and I think that's generally the message between these two. Right? We want the ambition, right? We need the ambition in order to achieve our goals. But we also need to look at the other aspect of the Devil card. And the Devil card just sort of has a little bit of that pleasure drive too. The Devil card is not just sort of being chained to our path and hyper focused on the mountain that we're trying to climb. Right? Sometimes we got to let the goat go off trail and chase some food around and have something to eat and just roll around in the dirt, or whatever goats like to do. I don't know. We've got to realize that, we need a little bit of joy, and we need a little bit of rule breaking. We need a little bit of pleasure seeking, right? Because this is your driving force. And too much of this sort of generative drive, the creative drive, which is your ambition to climb the mountain, too much of that sort of starts to become this aggressive drive, right? Where we're not tolerating anything that's not, hardcore obeying these rules. Maybe they're our own rules even, right? Our own strictness, our own discipline, right, can be too much. And we're not going to tolerate any deviation from that. It's going to be met with very harsh consequences. Becomes sort of aggressive. Five of Wands, right? So we've got to invoke a little bit of the pleasure drive as well. There's those three drives. And the pleasure drive is just kind of saying, hey, wait, yeah, I may be hyper vigilant, hyper focused, and really disciplined and really a stickler for the rules, but I'm not enjoying the ride anymore. My goal here is happiness and fulfillment and satisfaction. And if this sort of strict focus is not helping me get there, then this needs to be reevaluated. Okay? And the Hermit, of course, is showing a little bit of that isolation that we talked about. Okay? But the Hermit is also the one that sort of goes off trail. The Hermit is just as wise as the Hierophant, but the Hermit is going off the beaten path. The Hermit is going off trail. Okay? The Hermit is not following all of the rules. It's not the Fool, right? The Fool is just sort of dancing on all the rules and has absolutely no focus and no discipline. The Hermit is sort of the best of all three of these cards: the Fool, the Hierophant, and the Magician. Okay? The Hermit is using these three cards to create its own path. One that has discipline, so it's not complete fool. One that has freedom and improvisation and does not have a prescribed path. Excuse me. So it's not complete Hierophant either. Okay? It's sort of, it's a combination of all three of these. So I think that is a very, very good ending. There is sort of light and shadow in every card, though, right? And so we know that we don't want to isolate. We don't want to cut ourselves off from people. We don't want to lower our standards either, but we do need to reevaluate how severely we are holding ourselves or others to our expectations. Let's look at the mystery card. Okay. I think your lucky numbers, Scorpio, if you need some lucky numbers, 9, 15, 5. Okay. I think, 9, 15, and 5. Definitely the 5. Mystery card, I think, should be some water energy. I would like to see a 6 of Cups. I'd like to see that the blockages, we've sort of recognized what they were, what our challenges are, and we're able to make the connections we need. We're able to reflect on how intensely we've been dealing with life and what we need to do to improve our relations, 6 of Cups or any other water card. Nope, it's King of Swords. It's air on air. I couldn't be more wrong. This is a double air card. This is a fixed air energy. Just as we have a fixed water energy, we've got now a fixed air energy. So it kind of is holding these standards where it's fixed, where we need to be a little bit flexible. We're sticklers for the rules. We need to allow the rules to be a little bit less rigid, less dogmatic. Okay? But this, this might be a good start, having these two fixed energies. Maybe this is us starting the process of reflection and saying, yeah, okay, I can see that I need to loosen up a little bit about certain things. You're not lowering your standards. You might be adjusting your expectations here and there in different areas. But I think that you're giving yourself a little bit more slack. A little bit more slack. All right. I think it's good for you. Anyway, we're going to do an extended reading. That is good for you as well. If you want to stick around, there's a link up top. There's one down below. New readings for Scorpio Wednesday and Saturday. Be sure to watch both readings. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. It is totally free. It doesn't cost anything. Also subscribe to the Dove and Serpent Bedtime Stories. Leave a comment. Let me know where in the world you're watching from. I want you to know that you're the most important part of Dove and Serpent Tarot. I thank you and I love you, and we're all in this together.